Welcome back once again, all my low carb friends, and for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Today I have another experiment video for you. Today I am going to experiment with sunflower seed flour. Now the main reason that I want to check out sunflower seed flour is, as much as I love coconut flour, because you have to use so much moisture and so much binding agents, you really can never get a baked good or a food of any kind that really has a hard, firm, solid, crispy or crunchy texture. Like for example, when I made my keto Oreos and keto golden Oreos, they were excellent and tasted delicious, but you really couldn't get that hard cookie texture that you do in an original Oreo without letting the cookies dry out overnight. And even then, yeah, they were nice and crisp, but they still didn't have that ultra hard texture that you get with an original Oreo. And so with sunflower seed flour, supposedly you can always use it one for one as you would almond flour. And it's supposed to basically cook up or bake up the same way that almond flour does. And if you've ever worked with almond flour, I know most of you are allergic to nuts, but if you have ever worked with almond flour, you know that almond flour does get crunchy, does get crispy, does get hard, does get firm. So I am using a recipe from Keto Focus for their keto tortilla chips, which calls for almond flour, and in this case I am going to be substituting the almond flour out for the sunflower seed flour. One for one is supposed to be the swap, and I'm going to see if it does actually crunch up and crisp up and get that nice hard texture. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. Also, make sure you check out the links in the description. If you would like to help support the channel in any way, click on those links and support this channel. And while you do all that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Line a large baking sheet with parchment paper and set it aside for a minute. In a large mixing bowl, sift together 64 grams or around 2/3 cup of sunflower seed flour. Now you can buy your own, but you don't have to. It's really easy to make your own. I'm going to put out a short video on how to make your own. It's basically you just grind up sunflower seeds until they're super fine. Add 5 grams or around 1 tablespoon of whey protein powder. I haven't tried any other protein powders. You do have to have a protein powder that is able to crunch up. This is your key to helping your chips to be a crunchy chip, is the protein powders. Add 9 grams or around 1 tablespoon of xanthan gum. If you don't want to use xanthan gum, you can use cognac powder or guar gum. And this is another thing you cannot leave out. You need this to bind your ingredients together. If you want to, you can add some salt and some dry seasonings of your choice. I'm just using some salt and a little bit of garlic and onion powder just to give a little bit of flavor. Sift all the dry ingredients together until everything is fully combined and there are no lumps in the dry ingredients. Add 45 milliliters or around 3 tablespoons of hot water. This doesn't have to be boiling, but you do want it to be hot. The heat is just going to make it easier for your ingredients to combine and to soften the protein powder so that it combines smoothly. Stir everything together until all the dry ingredients are moist and a dough begins to form. Use your hands and press everything together, and if you need to, massage the dough a little bit to make sure that your dough is completely smooth and holding together. The dough is going to be sticky and it's going to be moist, but it shouldn't be so sticky that it's not releasing from your fingers. Line a clean work surface with some parchment paper or a silicone mat. Then place your dough onto your lined work surface. Cover the dough with another piece of parchment paper. Then roll the dough out to a very thin rectangle or a circle that's around 1/16 of an inch thick. You just want this to be very thin. The thinner your chips are, the crispier they'll be once they're done cooking. Now, I've told you guys many times before, I have issues with my shoulders, so I just divide the dough into about 8 portions or so and just press it out with my tortilla press, and if it still seems like it's a little bit thick, then I just roll it a little bit with the rolling pin. Once your dough is rolled out, as I already said, it's going to be moist and sticky, so to make it a little bit easier to handle, take the top piece of parchment paper off, then place another new piece of parchment paper over the dough, then lift the bottom piece of parchment paper and flip the dough over onto your new piece of parchment paper Then very carefully remove the top piece of paper. Go slowly when you do this because this is rolled out really thin and you don't want to tear your dough. Use a pizza cutter or a sharp knife and cut your dough into triangles or whatever shapes you want to cut it in. Then place them onto your prepared baking sheet. Make sure you leave some space in between each one of the chips when you put them on your baking sheet. You want them to be able to get a nice even cook all the way around. Once the dough portions are all cut and on your baking sheet, then let them sit on the baking sheet for just a couple minutes. You just want to make sure that all the ingredients just settle in really well and any excess moisture can absorb a little bit. Lightly brush each one of the chips with a little bit of olive oil. Don't do a whole lot. You just want a light little touch of the olive oil. This is just going to help your chips to crisp up a little bit better. Place the chips in your preheated oven. Bake at 400 degrees for about 6 minutes or until the chips are golden and dry. Make sure you just keep an eye on them really well because they can burn pretty easily. Once the chips are done baking, remove them from the oven and allow them to cool on the pan for at least 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, use a spatula and transfer the chips to a wire rack and allow them to cool completely before serving them. They'll continue to crisp up even more as they cool. We are back with my lovely chips. Look at that. Don't they look perfect? Not exactly perfectly shaped just because I'm an odd shaper. But they look good. They smell good. They are nice and hard. Hear that? Hard. Now, the one thing I did differently than what the Keto Focus recipe says, the Keto Focus recipe takes the chips and you fry them in hot oil on your stovetop. I just baked mine just because I didn't want to deal with the hot oil because I didn't feel like it. So I just baked them this time, which might make a little bit of difference in the taste. But as far as the texture goes, these are still nice and hard. We want to know if these things are going to actually taste good and if they are going to have that crisp, snap, crunch, hard feel that we love to have. So here we go. Let's see. Does it have a snap to it? Oh yeah. Got the snap. Got the snap. Got that crunch. Have a really good taste too. Those are good. I really like those. Definitely like that. I will say with baking them, it does have more of a little bit of a cracker texture almost. Not quite as thick as a cracker because I rolled them out really thin, but has that texture of a little bit more of a cracker side than it does a chip side, which I pretty much expected because I know when you bake it, you don't get the exact same texture as when you fry on the stovetop. But if you fried this on the stovetop, like the original recipe calls for, it probably would have more of a tortilla chip texture to it. But either way, it's still really, really good and makes a really good chip with some dip. I ate it by itself because I wanted to see how it would taste without anything on it. And I was curious to know if the sunflower taste was going to be super strong. And you can taste a little bit of the sunflower, yeah, but the seasonings and stuff that you add to it really kind of balance out that sunflower taste. And in a chip, I don't think a sunflower taste is bad anyway. This, I think, was a success, definitely. It's hard, it's crispy, it has that snap, it has that crunch, it has a good taste, good texture. Thumbs up, hold my chip, but thumbs up, good stuff, yummy. You can eat these immediately. If you do have any leftovers, you can store them in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 1 week. Do not store these in the refrigerator or the freezer. They will get soggy, so only store them at room temperature. Eat and enjoy. And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you click that thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.